Welcome back, everybody. This is a hot topic right now. I have tossed up between making a video not for a few days. I've spoken to a lot of people, level 2 judges, level 1 judges, pro players. I think it's probably best I do make one with my thoughts. I think I haven't seen anyone who has talked about this topic voice some of the concerns that I personally have. And I do want to simplify it too, so that people are... Well, it's for dummies. That way you can understand. Because I'm not a pro player. I definitely don't understand all the rules. I failed my judge test. I'm very much a casual. So I have 3 main points, and I don't like scripting my videos. I have some rough idea what I want to say. I'll try not to be too controversial. And this is by no means a dig at any specific player. Obviously, Jamie is the one that was in this particular instance. I've met Jamie. I've bought gold foils off Jamie. I've played Jamie. Never had an issue with him. So on a personal level, nothing to do with him personally. This is not what the video is about. I think it's part of the issue why people aren't looking at this rationally. But let's start. So first of all, the summary is someone got pummeled and didn't discard a card in a pro event. The judge saw it, didn't do anything. Everyone missed it. The judge was called, but the ruling was that they just keep going with the game. And obviously, getting pummeled is a big deal. It's discard a card, which is usually quite a disadvantage. Jamie was playing Dromai. He's the player that got pummeled. Dromai with 1 less card can be quite impactful, especially like dragons can be worth like 7 to 9 health or damage. And not being able to pitch when you're running a very high red deck is important. The point that's most important here is this not cheating. The rules, as I understand them, correct me below if I'm wrong, but the simplified version of what I understand, the person that owns the trigger is responsible for the trigger. In this case, the pummel was owned by the Katsu player. The Katsu player is responsible for making sure that the pummel trigger resolves. They didn't, by the way. That's why the judge didn't do anything. That's why, factually, Jamie didn't cheat. Didn't rule shark, didn't do anything wrong by the rules. That's what happened. So that's the ruling. That's what we're talking about. The person that owns the detrimental or beneficial trigger is responsible for it, not the opponent player. This has been explained to me at length. I'm not going to go through it, but I understand exactly why that's the new rules and that's the case. And it's just better than having everyone responsible or having different rules of beneficial, detrimental. It's just simply if you own the card, you're responsible. The simple explanation there is you should know your own deck better than your opponent knows it, and therefore it's just easier if you're responsible, and that way each player is responsible for their half of the game more than the other half. Let's move on. Very important, I think, when people have reacted to this scenario is the word cheater or rule sharking getting thrown out. Forget rule sharking, it's more of a grey thing. I think it's very important we don't call people cheaters. I mean, even if you see someone cheat, that's sort of different. But in this case, Jamie didn't cheat. And in another sense, cheating is like not just something you should throw around lightly or accuse people of. When there's no proof or you're not 100% sure about the rules or there hasn't been any consequences, like legally speaking, I can't go around calling someone a murderer if they haven't murdered someone. Even if I physically saw them murder someone, till they're charged or till they're actually convicted of murder, it's actually illegal for me to accuse them of that. And the reason I'm saying that's important, because there's a lot of damage. Words are free. You can call anyone a cheater at any point, and the words have some social consequences. In a game like Fab, the community is small enough that most people will come across Jamie at a high level if there are high level events, and to have him labeled as a cheater when he didn't cheat isn't a good thing. We shouldn't be throwing around that word. There were a couple of prominent content creators that did it. Most of this happened on Twitter, but either way, it's just my second point is we shouldn't be calling people cheaters unless we are 100% sure they did cheat and there's actual consequences. Like, there's a list on the FABTCG website of banned players. You can definitely call them cheaters because they were caught cheating. It was ruled that they cheated, and then LSS themselves directly banned that player for X amount of time or put restrictions for X amount of time. The only cheaters in Fab are the ones listed on that site. You'll find Jamie's not on that list. Even the point of him not discarding for the pummel wasn't even enough for a small judge call or a warning, because it's the Katsu player that missed the trigger, not Jamie. But, and this is the meat of the video, the meat of my opinion anyway, that does not excuse bad behavior. And I think this is where people are not understanding that this is not a black and white issue whatsoever. I got quite angry listening to the Twitter spaces that Tariq Patel did, a couple of YouTubers that made some videos about this. Even one of my comments got deleted, of people like defending the behavior. What Jamie did is bullshit. It's bullshit. You know it's bullshit. I know it's bullshit. I've watched the video back multiple times, watching the game from start to finish twice. That game wasn't being played in some sort of super clean, methodical way, right? There were many triggers missed, as an example. Many times when damage was presented or an attack was presented, one player would rush to write life totals down instead of passing on the reaction step, right? As an example. But that's how we play the game. It's like just how we play it. It's not correct by the rules. You're not allowed to, you're not supposed to play that way. But in this particular match, you can go watch it yourself. There's many instances where damage is presented and people write down life totals immediately without giving any time for the opposing player to react. Because there's a Katsu in the game, it's important to note that Katsu will often react on a Kodachi, or can often react on a Kodachi. There's plenty of reactions in the deck. Razor Reflex, there's more than that. There's obviously pummels in the deck. So it's jumping to write life totals down can sometimes result in one of those reaction steps being missed and therefore a disadvantage for the Katsu player. So passing on reactions is the way to play the game. We're not talking about mistriggers yet. I'm just talking about the cleanliness of the game, the methodicalness of that game was not up to scratch anyway, in my opinion. What happened was Jamie got pummeled. Jamie pointed at the pummel. The people casting, who had the table audio clearer than we had it, say that he mentions the pummel, laughs about it, literally points at the pummel, and then didn't discard a card. That is not fucking okay. Now, you can say it's not okay without calling someone a cheater. I'm saying it's not okay. I personally don't think he should get punished for it. I don't think he should be banned. I don't think someone should take his gold foil off him or PJ. I don't think any of that. I'm just saying that type of behavior got defended because it's within the rules to ignore your opponent's trigger because they missed it. Again, the rules don't care if it's detrimental or beneficial, but we all know logically ignoring a detrimental trigger to ourselves is in our advantage, and that's exactly why Jamie did it. And Jamie's since said he did that on purpose because his opponent misplayed and didn't correctly announce the trigger or didn't resolve the trigger. But again, it's shitty behavior. We all know that. And the problem I have with the community at the moment is you have one side going, no, this is fine. It's by the rules. And the other side, and these are both extremes, the other side is going, he's a cheater. Neither are fucking correct, in my opinion. I think calling out bad behavior, whether it's cheating or not, is completely normal in competitive sports, in competitive games like we're playing. It shouldn't be done. And I think as a community, it's okay to frown on that behavior. It's even okay to call people out. This video is calling Jamie out. I don't agree with that fucking behavior. I don't care what your excuse is by the rules. That is not cool. It's not cool. You got hit by a pummel. You acknowledged the pummel. You pointed at the pummel. And there's like a myriad of explanations why the Katsu player might have taken you pointing at it as you acknowledging the trigger and therefore didn't feel like you had to announce it. And you know that because I watched how you play. You know, you skipped over many triggers during that game. You played many Ravenous Rebels without showing the top of your deck because you'd already shown it in a previous combat link, which again is not correct. But you chose that particular instance because why would you want to discard one of your 4 cards when 2 of them were Chromized? And, I mean, you probably had the game wrapped anyway if you discarded a card, but why would you, right? Of course you didn't want to. And I don't think the Katsu misplayed. I think the Katsu assumed, because you pointed at the pummel and because you said the word pummel, which is what's bullshit about the scenarios. You both acknowledged it and called it out, and you clearly know what it does. This isn't like some sort of, I didn't know what it does, but you opted to force them to play exactly to the letter of the law, or you were going to punish them for it, which is what happened. Let me take a quick short break here. Players, this is the dummies part of this. Announce your own triggers and make sure they get resolved. That's the lesson you should learn from this. It shouldn't change the way you play, but if you command and conquer someone, you pummel someone, you have any on-hit on your own cards, you're responsible for them by the rules, so it's not hard to keep track of it. It's not hard to do it. Don't assume people are cheating. Some people will automatically discard on your pummel, but clearly you need to, especially in a high-level event, you need to assume that they don't even know what your card does, or are maybe not paying full attention to your side of the board, because usually when an enemy's attacking you, you're also thinking about your cards, what you can block with, etc. So you're usually using your brain for two things at once, at least. So guys, whether you're casual like me or a top player in the world, you should be declaring your own triggers and enforcing them. That's the rules. That's how the game is supposed to be played. And you can't call someone a cheater because they called you out on missing your own trigger. That's the point of this video. But on the other side, if you're defending this kind of behavior, you're a fuckwit. You are. Because you do not want this in the community. Literally 99% of players wouldn't play the game if this is how games were played. Let me explain it that way. So you don't want this in the community. You do not want players like this patted on the back. And 100%, if you're going to play like this, you deserve to be shunned publicly. Doesn't mean you can't go to events. Doesn't mean you've broken any rules. But there's a social cost to shit like this. If you're considered a dirty player or considered someone that will use the rules like this to your advantage to win instead of just pure skill, which is what most of us want to watch, if not all of us want to watch. There's no one that watched that game that should be thinking, good on you, Jamie, for doing that. And that's therefore why you shouldn't be defending it, and why it's very important for there to be some social repercussion for behavior like this so players don't do it. You don't want other players doing it. And you definitely don't want a player like Jamie to be doing it to you, or you having to sit in front of someone and think this way and having to declare a very obvious trigger that they acknowledged verbally twice and physically once and still didn't resolve, waiting for you to resolve it. And it's not specifically that he waited for the Katsu player to resolve it. The Katsu player basically drew up and passed. But I think what happened is, because you can't see the face cams, I think what happened is Jamie acknowledged the pummel, the Katsu player, and then Jamie starts shuffling his hand. So the Katsu player assumed Jamie's picking the card to discard, because when a pummel comes, it's usually a surprise. In this case, I believe it was. So the Katsu player is assuming Jamie is looking at which card to discard, and the Katsu player doesn't want to waste time just watching Jamie, so he started ending his turn, assuming that that's what they're doing, is he's discarding because he's acknowledged the trigger, or acknowledged the damage, I should say. Clearly didn't acknowledge the trigger. And that's what happened. The Katsu player went one step too far, ended the turn, and Jamie said, are you ending your turn? Yep. And then Jamie started his turn without discarding. That's bullshit, because I think when you play most games, hundreds of hours of games, when you pummel someone and then they start looking at their hand, you're assuming they're picking the discard. That's why I don't believe in defending this behavior. I'm not talking even to intention here, although Jamie's already said what his intentions were, that this was on purpose, and that's why there's been such an uproar and accusations of cheating. But this is just dirty. It's just scummy. It's not in the spirit of the game. Neither of those three things can be policed by rules, however you write them. And I'm not going to get into why, but if you try and solve this problem, you find there is no solution that's easy, that is fair for everyone. But as a community, that's still okay for you to be upset and angry about it and talk about it and discourage people from even trying to emulate this behavior and this type of shit. As a fairly casual player that's very invested in the game, I've already come close to quitting because someone rule sharked me in a calling once. It is absolutely bullshit what happened to me. Although it's by the letter of the rules and the judge call went against me. I was winning that game and I lost it because of some sequencing thing, something I said that is like a chicken and egg thing. I couldn't have done it if I... it wouldn't have happened if I could legally make that move anyway. So I basically ended up punished and had to pass turn, even though I probably would have won the game. And I can imagine if you're that top 4 player, the Katsu, that might have won the game and then lost it off something like this, it can discourage you from playing. And more importantly, at a lower level, in 99% of players that aren't going to top 4 their nats, that aren't going to win callings or win gold foils, they're already not perfect players. And to have to worry about this dumb little interpretation of rules or the ability of the player that's more educated on the rules to have such a big advantage, it's not a good thing for the community. It does not grow the game, and you'll find that most people defending this behavior are pro players, but that is literally the minutia of the community, so fucking ignore them. Like, they are not the people that play the game. There are a few people that are very good at the game and probably good at any game they play. They're just those type of people. But you personally, you do not have to listen to that shit. You do not need to be silenced. Whenever someone says this is a competitive event, it's competitive REL, so this is okay, it's bullshit when they say that. They're basically saying you're not good enough to be at that table. Not on purpose. I'm saying that's how I hear it. I hear it as if my opinion doesn't matter because I'm not in that scenario. It's bullshit. You should play this game and be able to reach those high levels without having to know every single fucking rule. That's why there's judges there. And without having to watch your back to that degree of someone potentially taking a win away from you because you assumed something, you assumed they were playing correctly and they weren't. Again, back to the dummies thing. Acknowledge your own triggers and enforce them. That's in the rules. That's what you're supposed to do. Beneficial or detrimental, your job, your trigger, your card. I'm not arguing with the rules. I don't even think the rules need to change. I'm just saying be aware. And obviously, this is a very good point. I think Hayden made it in his podcast. It's very important to understand that at a very high level, it's about who makes the least mistakes sometimes, not about who the better player is or the better deck is. Like if you know, it's important you know the rules and you don't make a mistake so that you don't lose to something dumb like this. But again, don't let people tell you what you can and can't be fucking furious about. It's your community, it's your game. And without calling people cheaters when they're not cheating, you should very much feel like you can say whatever negative thing you want to say about negative behavior and stamp it out. This is me putting my hand up. It's bullshit. Love you, Jamie, but that doesn't fly for me, man. Like, money on the line, whatever it is, not discarding on that pummel when you fucking put your finger on it is no. No. I'll call it out every time I see it. At least I have a platform. No one can tell me to shut up, so here I am. Subscribe if you like this video. I promise if I do see shit I don't agree with, I'll usually talk about it. I also didn't just make this video on the spur of the moment. I did a lot of research and chatted to people and calmed myself down to be able to say it somewhat rationally. But yeah, that's where we are. Please ignore the dead plant behind me. I promise it's not dying. It's just one part of it's yellow. Talk to you soon.